Hello, everyone, and welcome in a new look as we get ready for the 2024 show. My name is Bryce Koon. Welcome so much of welcoming in the show. This is my fourth podcast I've recorded today, and I'm a little tired, but hey, we had to power through. It's Prediction Thursday night. Will in the background. Words are indubitably hard. My name is Bryce Koon. Welcome into Swarm Talk, the Georgia Tech arm of the Crowded Booth. We'll call it the Crowded Booth Network. We're getting ready for Prediction Thursday, folks. We are under 12 days away. We're under, what is it, we 11 now? Can't even count. Can't even really do math. Away from, is today Thursday? Today is Thursday. A lot going on. We're almost to football season. Nico Greek says, about time football season got here. Hella stoked. Precisely 8.666 days left till kickoff. Do the math. Nico, I'm not smart enough to understand how to do that. But it is what it is. It is what it is. Podcasts make me tired. Yes, they do. They do. They do make me tired. Fancy new look. Yes, we got to get the gold right. I mean, that's something we got to do. But you see, obviously, the Swarm Talk logo and our presenting sponsor, Section 103, the best Georgia Tech gear that you're going to find on the market. And we obviously want you to use code Crowded Booth anytime that you're talking with these fellas. Great stuff. Make sure you check them out. They're going to be our presenting sponsor of our Swarm Talk show all season long. And that's going to be multiple live episodes a week, the occasional VOD in there as well. And man, we want you a part of it. So let's get ready to rock and roll. All right, so let's talk a little bit here about what we're going to be doing tonight. I have labored over this schedule prediction. I've put in a little bit of sweat equity on this schedule prediction. And I will tell you, the man in the background, Will, he's okay with it. And he I feel like he agrees with it. I did send off a draft. I did send off a draft, a couple tweaks from my original draft to the team. But this is where we sit here on a Thursday night, 9 days away from kickoff. And this is what I'm rolling with. Now, listen, this is the preseason prediction. We're going to get into the season. Obviously, the ebbs and flows will dictate how we pick on Thursday nights ahead of that game. But this is where we're going to roll here on a Thursday night preseason as we get ready to kind of see what has unveiling between us. All the way already, the comments popping off. The big, obviously, question here, and Gavin's already said no Tech can't make a run of the ACC title. Dr. Bob says, listening from Denham Springs. Dr. Bob, I hope the weather is not as bad there as it is right here in Baton Rouge, East Baton Rouge Parish. All right, so let's rock and roll. You know what we're here for. We're here for this. We've got a beautiful slideshow that we are excited to bring to the table. I guess we'll say that this can be something that will be fun. I'm nervous. I am a little bit nervous, Will. I'm not even going to be looking at the comments. I'm going full screen here, Will. So you pull up comments as we go through this. Here is the 2024 schedule. I'm going to give you a win or loss, and then I'm also going to give you a final score prediction. This is, I did the first one of these. I went off gut. Then I did a little bit more in-depth digging and reading on the teams. And then I just realized that Georgia Tech is one of those programs that year in, year out, we can sit there and say over the past couple of years, at least in the Brent Key era, that you just have some games that you can't explain how they win. Obviously, Miami last year was one of them. But this is where I kind of sit in 2024. I deliberated. I would say this is a balance between gut feeling and a lot of research. And like I said, there's one thing I realized about Georgia Tech is sometimes you have to throw logic out the window. So without further ado, let's get it rocking. Let's get it rolling. Let's see what we can do. All right. So week 1, we are sitting against Florida State, Georgia Tech, Florida State. A lot of people are excited about this game, as they should. A lot of people are interested, I would say, when it comes to, can Georgia Tech make a statement in week 0? And this is what I would say for this. The opportunity that you have in Dublin could be program changing. You talk about the last month of what Georgia Tech could be putting together here. You win a recruiting battle head to head against them. You are on the precipice of getting another high profile recruit. And you kind of you sit here with 15 days later from getting the recruit or so, 2 weeks later, we'll say, and you're facing the very team that you're going to go up in recruiting battles against, not only against Josh Petty, but other players in the future. What type of statement would it be if you can win in week 0? So Florida State, provides a good challenge. I have mentioned this multiple times in the Discord. I think that this Florida State team will not be as good as last year. It's very interesting, I will say, that the synopsis on Florida State is that for a lot of people, they're just going to be awful. If deemed by awful, you're thinking 8-4 floor. I think Georgia Tech should strive to be awful every single year, if that's what awful is. I think that's a 9-3, 10-2 program, a team that I put last night in my ACC title game. So week 0, I think Georgia Tech is going to make a statement. I think that they are going to prove to the college football world on a day when there's not a lot else going on. They're going to prove that they're not to be messed with. So here we go. Here's my prediction. I think Georgia Tech loses 34-23. Now, you say, Bryce, you just said all those things. I still think this can be a statement game. I still think that this is a game where when you look at what you can accomplish, people don't want to talk about moral victories. They don't want to talk about all these types of things. They're real. They are real regardless. There's program defining games. This is one of them. I do think that Florida State, and how did I get here? I think this is a close game. I think because it's so early, both offenses could scuffle to begin with. Just because, look, I think offense is one of the last things to come around when you talk about beginning of the season. Defensively, I think we're going to see an improved Georgia Tech team in week 0. I think Florida State is going to showcase, a duo of pass rushers that are very, very good. I think this is a game where Florida State pushes a touchdown late. They're winning 27-23. They get a touchdown late to push it to a 2-possession game. So that's where I sit with this game. I think that this is very interesting football game. It's an opportunity. Now, what I have said in this is that Georgia Tech can win this football game. And we're going to talk more about that next week. I think that they can win this football game. I ultimately think that Florida State is just a little more ahead of schedule. I think that Georgia Tech in week 0, the first game of the season, you're going to have a little more things to figure out. Whereas if you get this game, and this might be unpopular, if you get this game week 5, week 6, I really do believe that Georgia Tech has a better shot at winning it. I think that they could be a well-oiled machine at that point. And you're going to see what I go through when I look at this. So, and Will, if there's comments specifically with Florida State, there's comments there. You can go ahead and throw them up, and I'll read them as we go through the games. But I do think this is a game where Georgia Tech's defense shows improvement. And you say, how is that possible? Bryce, 34 points. I think this is a low-scoring affair, late scores. Florida State's able to put it away, but a lot of people realize, Jonesy says, okay, Bryce, a lot of people realize that Georgia Tech is not to be messed with in terms of that's a legitimate football team and a potential ACC contender. I think Tech is going to come out smelling like roses to the media in terms of that. Trevor Jones says, I think getting FSU week 0 is better than mid-season, in my opinion. It definitely could be. And that's why I debated this. For Florida State's sake, probably. I do think Florida State's more talented, and I think talent's going to win out in this game eventually. But if mid-season, I think Tech's a program that is going to get better as the season goes along. That is the only reason in terms of Tech's perspective that I would go that way. So Florida State, you lose to Florida State in week 1. Cord Grigg says, I think Bryce is a UGA fan. You can check that out on the Rivals message boards. So this is game 2. Week 2, baby. The crew's going to be there. We are going to be on campus. We're going to be doing a live show. And I just want to talk about this game because I said this matchup, I will tell you this. The crowded booth has put more any hype this game has is because the crowded booth has backed it up. Like, Will, can we agree to that? Because, like, the fact that, Will went on social media and said some things, that really fired up a tender portion of the Georgia Tech fan base. The crowd for the tailgate is getting wilder by the day. Exactly. So, and stay tuned for the backhanded compliments from Bryce. Yes, you have to stay tuned for that because I don't appreciate anyone or anybody. Whether you think Georgia State is a formidable opponent or not, I don't care if they were playing Georgia Southern. I don't care if they're playing Arkansas State. I don't care who they were playing in this game because of what you have to go through the week before, which I believe is going to be a physical game against Florida State, and what you have in terms of travel, getting back. You play the very next Saturday. Like at least Florida State gets to play the next Monday night on Labor Day and Monday night. They get a little bit extra time. You don't. What I do believe here is this is the definition of a trap game. Bryce doesn't even know nobody, so how can he appreciate them? Very true, Maxwell. I don't know if I'm going to be able to look at any of the comments, Will. I'm going to have to go back full screen. I thought I could do this. But Georgia State, I don't care. And Gavin says Dell's coming. This, I don't care who you're playing in this 2-week 2 spot. Genuinely, outside of an FCS opponent, this is a trap game because due to where this falls on the schedule, due to the travel and just literally going across the Atlantic Ocean, makes it a trap game. Now, you also add in the fact that, and look, we've been out at practice. Will's been out at practice at Georgia State twice now. If Zach Gibson's the starting quarterback, he would love nothing more to stick it to his old team. Kenyatta Watson, his move to safety, for Georgia State, he'd love nothing more than to pick off Haynes King and run it in for a pick six. I'm not hyping Georgia State up in that sense, but what I'm telling you is you've got a group of kids where they would love nothing more, along with a bunch of other guys, to stick it to the crosstown team. You can get offended, you can get butthurt, you can go in a message board, group chat, and say anything you want about it. Anybody is going to sit here and tell you, and I will tell you, I've already had this conversation with multiple people outside of the Georgia Tech sphere that have nothing to do with Georgia Tech or Georgia State. And they said, yeah, like because of how you have to play this game, it's Will says 34-13 Georgia Tech. He goes and puts his prediction in. Because of where this game is scheduled, it's a trap game. You add in the fact that it's two Atlanta schools. What this would do for Georgia State's program if they were able to win the game, that's another massive key. So all that to be said, Georgia Tech should win this game. They should win this game handily. And that's why I've got them winning this one. I think the offense explodes. I've got this one a 47-21 win. I think that they should be able to do what they want against, offensively. Now, this is going to be the challenge because they need to dominate defensively. 21 points, okay. I think you could see a garbage time touchdown. I think this is one where the fans are having a good time. It's a night game at Bobby Dodd. We're going to be there. It's going to be a fun environment. Will and Ralph have never been to a night game at Bobby Dodd. I have. It's awesome, and I think this could kick off a successful run on the home slate. So I do think Georgia Tech should win this game. I think that I just think that they should win. Will says he's never been to Bobby Dodd ever. So if you look at this game and you think anything different, would love to hear it. Okay, Will, you're going to have to control comments. I can't do it. There's just too much going on. My ADD's killing me. All right, so you're 1-1, and you roll into a game which I would profile as a swing game on the schedule. Obviously, Georgia Tech's expectations, they want to be more than just a bowl eligible team. You got to win this one. Syracuse, brand new coach, Kyle McCord, is taking a lot of flack. We talked about it on the show last night when we talked about Ohio State at the Big Ten title game. McCord just wasn't good enough for what they needed there and to win a national championship. This is still a talented young man. And I think that he's going to provide some respect to Syracuse. You remember when Georgia Tech played Syracuse last year, they barely had a quarterback. So I think this is a game where, you get to see Brent Key early on, turn around and go on a road trip. Does fatigue set in? You're now in week 3 where you have, gone across the pond per se and played Florida State, a tough team. You came back home and you it's why it's important to cruise to a victory against Georgia State. And then you're making up, an early season trip up to Syracuse, New York. This is the first ACC game. This is a chance to start off on the right foot. It's a chance to really do what you need to really do what to do. It's also a chance for your defense to be able to do some things. And Dr. Bob says Kyle McCord has a great arm, but lack the mobility is a liability. I do agree. So I believe Georgia Tech wins this one 33-24. Two possession victory here for the Jackets. They go get a nice road win to kick off ACC play. They get on a win streak. 2 is a win streak. And, we'll just kind of go into the next one. And TD Jake says, didn't they wax us in 2020 in the Dome for their only win that year? They might have. Will can look that up. I don't remember. You roll in, and we don't have to talk a lot about this, but, the jokes are going to be made that the SoCon has Georgia Tech's number. Western Carolina made a game way too interesting a couple years ago. The Citadel, obviously. VMI, look, I spent 3 years in the SoCon, with Mercer. VMI is on the bottom half. If this was Chattanooga, if this was Mercer, Sanford, there might be a little more concern. VMI is not very good. So I've got Tech going 3-1 with a big 51-16 win over VMI. And if I'm not mistaken, that's a night game. So that for me is interesting. All right, this is where we roll into the interesting portion of the schedule. Cord Griggs says Bryce going to pick VMI. Cord, I'm not. Contrary to what people believe, I don't do this show. Like, you know how crazy it would be for me to do a Georgia Tech show, literally 2 days. Like, what are there, 52 weeks in a year, 52 times 2? I can't do that type of math. I believe that's 104. 104 shows a year on a team that I absolutely hate. Like, that's a wild concept. So I'm going, we're 3-1. We're sitting 3-1 right here. Now you roll into another road trip, and this is a team, we get to Louisville. Disappointing is the way I would say it last year. You lost to Louisville. You didn't want to lose to Louisville in general. You played a sparkling, nearly flawless second quarter. And in Buster Faulkner's first game as OC, there might have been some play call questions from the fan base. There might have been a lot of different things. The wheels ended up falling off. Louisville ends up winning the game. It's a chance for redemption. Louisville has a different team. It's still a solid team. I do not believe, due to their schedule, and then kind of the schedule they had last year, they're going to be quite as good as they were last season. I do still think that Jeff Brom is one of the more underrated coaches in college football. He did a fantastic job. Look, I've said this 5,000 times. He won at Purdue. If you can win at Purdue, then you got to feel good about yourself. So I think this is a game. It's a swing game for me. This is one of the ones that I battled back and forth on. I really kind of, teetered on and off. I think Georgia Tech loses this one. I think this is a high-flying affair. I think that 41-38 is my final for this one. Gavin says Tech will be the underdog in the rest of these games. I would actually, outside of Duke, that might be true, depending on what happens. I think Georgia Tech loses a close one. I mean, this is where Haynes King goes toe-to-toe with Tyler Shook to be able, to kind of jockey for ACC position. It's your second loss of the ACC, and I saw Maxwell said earlier, obviously Florida State's a conference game, so it's your third ACC game. You're 1-2 in the ACC, but you get Louisville. You got to go up there. That can be a tough place to play, and I think this is one of those flip games, a coin flip game. Like, we could get there, and Georgia Tech could win this game. Will says Romello Height is gonna have Tyler Shook. I like that. I like that. I do think that this is a game where it could go either way. Right now, I've got Louisville winning this game. Obviously, it could change when we get to that week. Okay, so now we're talking and we're rolling going into Duke. And Maxwell said, Will and I are kindred spirits. I like it. We're going into Duke, okay? And this is a game where if this was the Duke team from last year, I would have more concerns. I think Georgia Tech should win this game. I don't know if there's a ton to talk about. I mean, I think that defensively, schematically wise, they're going to be solid. I don't think they have the personnel that they had last year, which could cause a step back. With Malik Murphy, could he cause trouble for Georgia Tech's defense? He very may well could. But as I see it here on August 15th, I think that this is a game that Georgia Tech should win. So I have the Jackets winning this one by double digits at home, 37-24, getting back home, getting a big win. Against an ACC opponent, they get back to even at 2-2, and now currently you're 4-2 in the ACC. So really, really like that. And also, you're coming out of a bye week. That I think that's going to make a major difference because Well, I think this could really, uh, I think this could really be interesting. When you look at how the first 5 games go, by the time they get that Louisville game, they're gonna be gassed. Like, there's gonna be some type of mental fatigue, and just I'll say this, having talked with people that played in an Ireland game, they said if you don't get a bye within the first couple of weeks, you're kinda it's just you get back to Atlanta, and I talked with guys who played in that game when Georgia Tech went over there so many years ago. It takes a toll on you mentally and physically to where you're just trying to play catch up. And so that's why I'm not a big fan of them playing the game in terms of like what you want to accomplish. I think for the fans, it's going to be fun, that kind of stuff. I will say I'd love to have it, in terms of always having a home game. But I think that the bye week's going to do them well. It's going to give them a reset. This offense is going to kick back up and get a big bounce back win against Duke. So I've got them beating Duke on October the 5th. Now, as Cord says, and Trevor says here, both fellas, they're not losing to UNC. The past 2 years when I've done this, Brent Key is going to want revenge. Well, he already beat him last year. I'll tell you this too. We'll say if Brent Key is focused on beating Jeff Collins, then Georgia Tech has a whole nother problem. That's something cool for fans to talk about. But yeah, this show is taking a toll on me mentally and physically. Well, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Jonesy. Feel free to unsubscribe. You're going North Carolina here. Okay. You're on the road in Chapel Hill. And I'm just going to say this. I think that Jeff Collins is going to be a good defensive coordinator for North Carolina this year. I think he's going to be better than what they've had. I think their defense is not going to be putrid. Offensively, I don't think they're as good as they've been the past couple of years. I do think that North Carolina could be looking at another down season, which I personally think will result in Mac Brown retiring and stepping down. But Georgia Tech goes on the road here. For the past couple of seasons, I have taken North Carolina to win. I think dating all the way back to when Tech played them in the Bins. And I think I'm kind of sitting here thinking, top 3D in the ACC, and he ain't 2 or 3. That's Will's take right there. I'm kind of sitting here with this game, and look, like, can you stop the run? Mayhem will be ministered. Let me tell you. Can you stop the run? Like, Amarian Hampton is a dude, and like that's going to be the biggest thing. Is Max Johnson going to make enough plays though? Drake May couldn't make enough plays last year. Georgia Tech made the plays at home. Does playing in Chapel Hill going to help them? Look, I mean, honestly, if you really want to know where I'm going with this, like if you really, really want to know, I'm going a big win in Chapel Hill. I think Georgia Tech knocks off North Carolina. They're up over 30 points. You're noticing a trend. This is an offense that's averaging around 35, 36 points a game, which would put them in the top 15 if last year. So I think this is another big win. They stack back-to-back wins. They beat Duke the week before. They beat North Carolina on the road. I think Haynes King, road warrior. I love the way Brent Key's team plays on the road. I don't know. I really, really like the way they play on the road, and especially when they're feeling down, counted out, and stuff like that. So this gets you back to, I believe, 3-2 in the conference. It also pushes you to now 5-2. So let's take a quick break, real quick. If Georgia Tech's 5-2 rolling into the Notre Dame game, real quick, Zach says we lose this game because of offense struggles. Their offense is nowhere near good enough offensively this year. Yeah, it's not as potent as it has been. I do agree with you. If Georgia Tech's 5-2 rolling into this game, like, are you not happy? Like, are you not happy about that? Like, you got to be thrilled. 5-2 rolling into the bins, playing potentially meaningful football in the month of November. Now, you get to October 19th. I hate that this game's played in Mercedes-Benz. Loathe it. I think it's awful. I was having a conversation with someone today about it. I think it's stupid. I'm ready for this series to be over if I'm a Georgia Tech fan, but I genuinely I want these games at home because I think a home atmosphere, and I was talking about this with someone today, but I do believe Will and I talked about it off air. Imagine Bobby Dodd at night against Notre Dame. with this Georgia Tech team. 5-2. I don't know what Notre Dame's record will be coming in, but you have to believe it could potentially be, a top 25, top 30 matchup. But I don't know. And Will says we want everything to be in the bins in this house. Well, for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. So that's what I got to say. But you're rolling Notre Dame inside the bins. I just don't love it. Now, I will say this: Notre Dame's going to be super physical. Defensively, they're going to be solid. Offensive line, they're going to have a bunch of road graders. Riley Leonard is probably the best quarterback that Marcus Freeman's had there. If Riley Leonard stays healthy, that scares me if I'm Georgia Tech. Tons of experience on this Notre Dame team, veteran team, knows how to go on and win football games. And that's why I do have Georgia Tech dropping a close one in Mercedes-Benz to Notre Dame, 33-28. Another potential flip game that I think Georgia Tech could win right now as I see it. And there's just things that I need to see. And we'll talk about this after the show and kind of maybe behind my predictions. I need to see physicality out of Georgia Tech's defense. I need to see Tyler Santucci fully ramp it up. If this defense can improve to a point, this defense has to improve to a point where I can feel comfortable saying, yeah, you can handle this. You can handle Notre Dame running the ball 35 times a game and Riley Leonard playing off the play action. And I also say this, they've got Mike Denbrock, who's orchestrating that offense up in South Bend, came from LSU last year. Tons of positive vibes in South Bend in terms of what they have potentially on the field here in 2024. So I do have Notre Dame winning this football game, and we'll see. We'll see. And I don't know. We'll just have to see. All right, so we get into October 26th. Now you have 4 games left. Now, Will, correct me if I'm wrong here. You're 5-3 at this juncture. 5-3. You need 1 out of the last 4 to get to win a bowl game. You're going on the road against a team that has been much hyped, much talked about, a team that has just been drooled over for the past 7-8 months, and for good reason. Virginia Tech returns nearly everybody, and they don't play anybody. So, I mean, I think at this juncture of the season, they've probably played Miami, and that's about it. Will says one more win to make Will some money. We'll get to this here in just a second. It's come a couple of the comments. I got to stay out of it. I'm getting too antsy, Will. You're going on the road to Virginia Tech, and I have said this. I think this is the year. You can like it or not, and Ultima says by this scoring, Bryce has this as a top 15 offense, which would be awesome. Yeah, I think there'll be top 15, top 20 offense in the country, scoring-wise. I think this is the year that the Hokies, we beat Virginia Tech. They're way overhyped. I think this is the year that the Hokies, well, okay, Cord Griggs, we don't just loose in Blacksburg. We haven't lost there in 14 years. Okay. VTB, I mean, we're just throwing the comments out here. So this is what happens when I'm not ready for this. I just see the comments popping up on my screen. So we'll see. He says, go back to that one, Will, because I didn't actually read it. I just kind of spout some nonsense. VT beat no one of note last year. I think GT beats the Hokies handily. GT plays good in Blacksburg. Yeah, they do. I think this is a new Blacksburg. I think this is a return to the old Blacksburg. I think Enter Sandman's going to be rocking. This is a big game if Virginia Tech wants to make it Charlotte. And so I will just go ahead and say I've got the Hokies winning this one 35-31. I think Kyron Drones could be a problem for this defense, regardless of what you think about him as a passer. The guy is a good athlete, and athletes give suspect defenses problems. If Georgia Tech's defense is suspect, that's going to be a problem. So that's where I'm going. Rolling with Virginia Tech to win this one. So this puts you at 5-4 now, and let's kind of go back, Will, because I don't have it updated. You've lost to Florida State, beat Syracuse, you're 1-1 in the conference. You lose to Louisville, you're 1-2. You beat Duke, North Carolina, you're 3-2. You lose to Virginia Tech, you're 3-3. You're 3-3 with 2 more conference games left. And, you're going to get into this weird situation where you're about to play 1 game in 3 weeks. So you lose to Virginia Tech. I think that's going to be a physical, emotional football game. But it's another game to me where it's another thing for me. And I love this comment. Drones only averages 4.2 yards a carry. So he's only got to carry it 3 times for a first down on average. Virginia Tech game's winnable. I just think as of right now, you're going to be beat up from Notre Dame. emotional game. You go to Virginia Tech, I think that place is going to be rocking. So that's kind of where I have that. So get you losing Virginia Tech 35-31. So you're 3-3 in the conference. You were 5-4 overall, and you're rolling into a slate where you get a bye week heading into Miami. On last night's show, we had a commenter from beautiful downtown Atlanta. And he made the comment because I put Miami in the ACC title game, and I put Miami as my ACC champion. I think Cam Ward's going to be going off. I think he's got a real good shot to be in the Heisman Trophy ceremony in New York. I made the comment that I think that Miami will be 9-0 going into this football game. And I also said I don't think Miami's going undefeated. You know, Georgia Tech every single year, they play some game, defies the logic, all this kind of stuff, and they just go win a football game. I think the fan base is going to be rowdy. The fan base is going to be giving this Hurricanes team and Mario Cristobal absolute hell for 60-plus minutes. And I think that Georgia Tech goes back-to-back, and I think they beat the undefeated Miami Hurricanes. I think they beat a top 7 Miami Hurricanes team. If Miami's 9-0 at that point, why not put them as a top 7, top 8 team? So I think they beat Miami with a final score, as you can see right there, a late touchdown to win it. This is that might miss the extra point. I don't know. They're trailing 28-27, a late touchdown. Haynes King orchestrates a drive. It's going to be interesting. I'm going Georgia Tech over an undefeated Miami team. I think that Georgia Tech wins this football game. That puts them into bowl eligibility. You are now 6-4. Trevor Jones says Miami plays FSU and Duke back-to-back weeks. Tech will be rested and will be a wide down of Bobby Dodd. It'll be rocking. I do believe. I do believe. I think this is, and let's get to in Dennis's comment right down there, Will, because this is absolutely true. If that would happen, it's a signature win for Key. Wholeheartedly agree. This is the signature win. And we'll talk about it towards the end of the show. I think you beat Miami. You're well rested off a bye week. And this is something, too. I think there's going to be some type of, not come to Jesus, but some type of locker room morale where the guys can sense it. This is a chance. You've got 3 games to get to bowl eligibility, and you've got a chance to knock off a top 10 opponent, or who I believe will be top 10 at the time. And you've also got an opportunity to stake a claim and build momentum for next year. This win against Miami does that. So I think they beat Miami. You also have a bye week coming out of this. Tech gets 3 bye weeks this year. Reminder, 3 bye weeks this year because they play week 0. So you're coming off a bye week. You're going to be fully well rested. Then you're going to play balls to the wall for 60-plus minutes. And then let's talk here. You get a bye week on the back half of this. So why not roll the dice and say, hey, let's leave it all out there. I'm going to call it Grant Field still, but Hyundai Field at Bobby Dodd Stadium, and let's give these fans something good to cheer about to open up the month of November. So I think Georgia Tech beats Miami 34-28. Now, this is a game that I would love, and I tell you, I would love nothing more to get to. LSU plays Vanderbilt this week, the week of this game, so I probably will be trying to make the trip to Atlanta. Thursday, November 21st against NC State. I went on record saying a month or 2 ago that I believe I went on record saying that I believe in Grayson McCall coming into the 2024 season is a better quarterback than Haynes King. I do believe he's more accomplished. He's played longer. I'll say this. I still believe this. I still believe this. Dave Doran's a very, very good coach. KC Concepcion against Amari Harvey or whoever cornerback 1 is going to be a wild matchup. This is going to be an amazing Thursday night football game. I think this is going to be a really, really fun one. Thursday night in Bobby Dodd is unbelievable. The only one that just awful was that Virginia game 2 seasons ago. But this to me is good. Like, this is a good one. I'm excited to watch this. It's going to be fun for me. You can see we got some of the After Swarm crowd. Welcome in, folks. How you doing? NC State, good football team. I believe Ralph picked them to be in the ACC title game last night. I think Georgia Tech wins it, though. I think this is another emotional. It's a senior night game, Thursday night. I've got Georgia Tech winning this one, 41-33. This puts them at 7-4. You're clear of the bowl eligibility range. You now will roll into rivalry weekend, knowing you're in a bowl game, and not that you're going to rest on your laurels or anything like that. But I think that this is another big win, and you kind of recognize a theme here. Georgia Tech does not win. They don't win one singular game. They do have little spurts. You go back from August 31st to September 14th, 3 in a row. The Duke, North Carolina back-to-back, 2 in a row. And then I got them obviously winning Miami the week before. So they carry over. They get another rest week, in middle of November, and then they beat NC State on a Thursday night. Haynes King, if this is indeed his last game inside Bobby Dodd, gets sent out in a big way. Georgia Tech, another emotional win. High-flying offense. Defense makes a couple key plays and gets a couple stops. But I've got Georgia Tech winning this game as well. All right, the final game of the season. This is a rivalry. It's a rivalry again. Last year, I was talking, and you can go check the channel out. And if you like, I'll say this: if you're just such a diehard fan of a team that you can't watch any other team, well, then you probably should just flip your game on Saturdays and stop watching college football altogether. Had a great conversation with Palmer Toms of Dogs HQ and On3, and we talked about this Georgia Tech game, and he mentioned it, in the show. And encourage you to go if you want a scouting report or what's, stuff like that, to stuff on Georgia to kind of learn going into the season. Go check out that episode on the channel. Georgia Tech, regardless of what Georgia fans are going to say, Georgia has some players sitting out. Yes. But Palmer and I were talking about this, and we talked about this off air. And Palmer said this. He was in the stadium. He never once felt like, and the feeling amongst the Georgia beat was, they were never going to lose that game in Atlanta last year. And then when Kendall Milton breaks the tackle from Kyle Eford and gets the first down, he said there was a collective of like, oh, crap. Like, if Eford would have made that tackle, Tech was going to have a chance to go win the game, or tie the game at least. And I think that while maybe how the game felt, like throughout it, Tech was close, but Georgia was, that Georgia was in control. And you might disagree with that or agree with it, but I kind of felt the same thing watching the game. I didn't think Tech was I never felt Tech was going to win that football game, but hey, they were challenging and they were right there. But then he said, like, they went down to the postgame presser, and Kirby, and I'll say this, Kirby even mentioned off record, if you want to say, of like, big run by Kendall. And it kind of set in of like, dang, like they would have had a shot. And so I think when you look at this game, you're going to Athens this year. Well, please refresh my memory. This is a Friday night game, I believe, in Athens, which is, I love this because I think it gives Georgia Tech this is a sign of respect. I'm tired of this game being played at noon before the Iron Bowl, because this is where people sleep through when they're Thanksgiving coma, their Black Friday shopping or whatever they do. They sleep through it. They get ready for the Iron Bowl and the games that evening. Tech gets a little more respect because they get to play this in a primetime slot. And so, Tech heads up to Athens. And I'll tell you this too. I think Georgia's a uber talented team. I had them winning the SEC. There's nothing wrong with that. I think if you're a rational fan, and if you can take a step back, you can take the gold and white lenses off, that you're able to look at this from a vantage point of, you know what, like, they're the better football team still, but we're still climbing. And so that's why I have Georgia winning this one. But I think this is a little more respectable than people believe. I got it as a 13-point victory, 37-24. I think Georgia is going to benefit from a rocking home crowd. Sanford Stadium is going to be crazy. I think it's going to be a good football game. I don't think it's going to be 37, to 17 or 37-10 in the fourth quarter and Georgia Tech scores a couple garbage touchdowns. No, I think this is going to be a game where it's 30, it's 30-24. or it's something that's 30-24 with about 7 or 8 minutes left. Georgia scores a touchdown, and Tech just cannot erase that double-digit deficit. So I have Georgia winning this game. To me, I think this is what it is. So that puts you at 7-5, and so let's talk about 7-5. You see the schedule right there. There's a bunch of swing games. Like, let's go back and look at this. There's games on the schedule where you look at it and look, you can beat Florida State week 0. You can lose to Syracuse. You can beat Louisville. You could lose to North Carolina. You could beat Notre Dame and Virginia Tech. You could lose to Miami and NC State. The only games that I feel comfortable, and Brent Key will never say this, nor should he, that I would feel comfortable as a media member penciling in is odds are you're probably going to lose to Georgia, I believe, and you should beat VMI and Georgia State. So I've got you for 2 wins and 1 loss. Outside of that, there's 9 games where until we see this team in action, I can't make it accurate. This is a gut feeling. This is kind of how I'm feeling in the moment and not just feeling in the moment, but along with research and just kind of knowing how Tech plays and where this is on the schedule. So I would say, like, the games that I've got penciled in as losses outside of Georgia, I think you have a realistic shot to win the game. The game, so a couple of the games I have here penned in as wins. Like, you could lose to Syracuse if you mess around, you can go up and lose to Syracuse. They've got some talent. They've got a competent quarterback. You could lose that game if you mess around, if you throw 4 picks, if you lose the turnover battle. Like, we just have to see here in 2024. And we're going to get to a couple of these comments because it's going to be, I think it's going to be fun, Will, because I've seen we've got a ton of them and you can get to them. We're going to see. All right. Will says 7-5 would be a good season for Tech. This is a tough ACC schedule. Key is still building. Remember, Vegas thinks this team will win 5 games. And we just gave you 2 plus that. Like 7-5. And I'll say this too. 7-5, you get in a bowl game against a Big 12 team, maybe an SEC team or something like that, or one of the better group of 5 teams that doesn't make it in the playoff. You win it, you're 8-5. Okay, so you're 8-5. You finished, I believe, Will, that puts you at 5-3 in the conference. You're top 5 and top 6 in the ACC. So if you go 8-5, it'll be interesting. Trevor says, Bryce, what was your record prediction for last year? I agree, 7-5 sounds right, but the wins and losses may be different because Tech doesn't make sense. It wholeheartedly could. I believe I did 5-7 or 6-6 last year. And I was like, you're going to lose to Miami and beat Bowling Green. It could be completely that. So if you go 7-5 in this sense, and Sanji says this prediction considering an improved defense from Santucci. Yeah, I don't know it. Yes, it's considering an improved defense. I just don't know how improved. I don't know how improved. So when I sit here and I look at this, if you get 7-5 regular season, you win an 8th game in the bowl game, you're going to keep building momentum with this recruiting class you had. You're going to build momentum with 2026 recruits. And folks, when we sit here 365 days from now and we talk about a 2025 slate that doesn't look nearly as daunting, now it starts to open up a little bit. It starts to open up a little bit in the sense of, I don't know. To me, it opens up a little bit to where you could say, okay, now you got to win 8 or 9 football games. Look, progression is not necessarily always linear. If Georgia Tech can stay linear in their progression, continue up in that way, I don't know. Now, Cord is saying, I have zero clue what Cord is talking about here, Will. So he goes, so using that logic, we would be 8-4 plus a bowl win 9-4. No, I said you'd be 7-5 with a bowl win at 8-5. Unless you have some alternate bowl game that you're playing in, I don't believe that. Now, this is why I love Joe the Pilot. He goes, honestly, I see 12-0. At least Joe is being real. Like, at least Joe's out here being truly himself. And I appreciate that for Joe. I'm glad that Joe does that. Without an improved defense, we go 5-7 with the schedule: wins over Georgia State, VMI, Duke, UNC, NC State. Cord says I said 5-7 last year. Yeah, and I was a nine. We went 6-6, and I was a kneel down away from being right. So there's that. I said 16-0 20 times. I'm glad. Mojo says Joe the pilot knows what's up. So look, let's just talk here. I don't know what Core Griggs is talking about, by the way. There's no shot this guy is a real person, first off. Like, if we're just being honest with ourselves, for the people listening in the podcast form, you're like, you got to go check out the YouTube video. We got over 220 people watching live. We appreciate it on the platforms. I was told we were dead. I didn't hear about that. But let's get into this. Vince says, I think best case is 10-2 with losses to Georgia and Notre Dame. Cord says if you use the logic of one more win from last season, we would go 8-4. Cord, I still don't understand where you're coming this. Where is everyone watching the FSU game? Any watch parties? Kitty suggests we might have a watch party here on the channel. Would love for you to join us. I think we have one major rank win at least. Who it is, no idea. Yeah, I picked Miami. That's where I went with that one. But let me tell you this: what is the Chord? I don't understand. I have zero idea of what you're talking about. I do appreciate you watching the show. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Not a clue what's happening with your conversations. I'm pretty it's Chord here acts like, and I know what this is. I know what this is. I mean, I'm pretty sure I know who this is too. But Chord acts like I picked them to go 2-10 last year, and they went 6-6. I mean, I was literally a kneel down away from them doing the opposite. So your prediction is 7-5, 8-4. Using that logic, the problem is, Maxwell, I'm not sure logic is actually used. So Ultima says this is awesome. Yes, it is. Ultima, appreciate you tuning in. All right, so we've got about 10 minutes left on here on the show. Well, I'm about liable to open up the phone lines. I mean, I'm about liable to open up the phone lines, and I think we could. I'm going to try to set this thing up here, and this could be fun for the last 10 minutes of the show. This could be, because I think the floor. I'll say this: ceiling for me is 9-3. Floor is 4-8. That's where I sit with this. So there you go. That's where I sit with this. Now, Will, we're gonna have to see if this even works, man. We're gonna have to see if this works. Is the number? We're gonna turn the number on. Well, is the number still in the system? It is. Now I got to figure out what the no. Okay, I've got to do this. Here's your number. Well, we're changing the number. Okay. We should have planned this earlier. All right. Well, I'm about to send you the number for the call-in portion of this. And Chord, I hope that you call in. That's what I hope, because we don't discriminate against anybody here. Okay. Here is the number, Will. I'm sending it to you in the private chat behind the scenes. If you want to make a quick banner, you can. We're going to open up the phone lines. I want to hear your predictions. Okay, I get it. Vince says, I get it now because we outdid your prediction last year by 1, and this year you predict 7-5. Chord is saying we'll do 1 better than your prediction, just like last year. Vince, you're the voice of reason. I appreciate it. Chord, apologies. I did not understand it. Yeah, call the show. Like, let's do this thing. I think it could be absolutely hilarious. We don't want that. I have no idea if the phone line's going to work or not. We're going to see. If you want to call the show, you can. And if you don't, we don't have to. Okay. The phone does work. That was me. That was just me calling just to test it out. But here, I'll finish with this. Here we go. Here we go. All right, welcome on Georgia Tech Prediction Show. I'd love to hear your picks. Where did I get it wrong, and what you got to say?
5 games. And of those first 5 games, I will tell you why we have the opportunity to go 5. Number one, we start out in Ireland against FSU. FSU has never been to Ireland before. FSU is stacked with transfers that have not played together before.
Yeah.
So we go out, take care of business in Ireland, and now we have some momentum. Next to the Georgia State game, this is the game I have certain. This is Bowling Green right here. This is a team that we can beat if we come ready to play. But if our heads are still in Europe, come Labor Day weekend, Georgia State will embarrass us. So this is my big trap game for the year. But let's say Coach Key has them dialed in, ready to play. They're going to beat Georgia State. Syracuse, they're going to be a good team. They've got a lot of good transfers in, and they're not going to be playing a tight-end quarterback. But I'll tell you this. They are going to be coming off of 1-game preparation against a cupcake opponent, whereas Georgia Tech, we have been through a crucible. We have played FSU, a top 25 team. We will play Georgia State, a solid G5 team. And because of that preparation, I say we go out and we are too much for Syracuse to handle up in the Astrodome or whatever they play in. Next, we got VMI. VMI, I'm not worried about. I could eat my words on that. Shit, we can lose to Northern Illinois. We can definitely lose to VMI, but I don't see that happening in the rankings. So then it all comes down to Louisville. If we come into Louisville riding high, we are 4-0. We are maybe on the edge of breaking in the top 25. We hope, or we go up to Louisville, get a big win, and then all bets are off.
Yeah.
5-0 going into the bye week, and this season could take off. So that's the way I see it.
I like it. Hey, I appreciate you calling. What was your name? We didn't have you at the beginning. What was your name and where are you calling from?
Oh, absolutely. Well, this is Mojo, and I'm calling from beautiful Mableton, Georgia.
Gotcha. Well, Mojo, appreciate you watching, and man, we're going to be opening up the phone lines again next Saturday afternoon for a post-game call-in show. So hope you got some thoughts on. Hey, I hope Georgia Tech beats Florida State. Like, I want people to know that. I don't know if they will, but I hope they do. We'd love to have you. All right, we're going to move on to the next caller.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, appreciate it. Next caller, what's your name and where are you calling from?
This is Dr. Bob calling in from East Baton Rouge Parish, Louisiana.
Dr. Bob, you like that EBR area code right there?
Yeah, I love that 225. Of course, I miss my 919 up there in Durham, and I'm sad that I'm not going to be able to go see us beat UNC again for a fourth straight time. But you have to follow the money.
You do. And look, I mean, hey, if the money leads me back to Atlanta, I'd most gladly head back up there. Dr. Bob, tell me this, and look, we can talk about this over a fine dining lunch at Cane's Chicken Fingers at some point. But
of course,
I would love to get your thoughts on where do you think I went wrong? Jonesy just said this call is going to be 2 hours long, and none of us are smart enough to follow. But I will ask you, what do you think? I mean, what do you make of the prediction? Am I far off? Am I crazy? Am I whack? Your thoughts?
I mean, I could see us going as low as 2-10 and as high as 10-2. And the law of averages being equal, I would have us probably at 6-6 or 7-5. I think 7-5 is actually kind of spot on. The games that we win and lose may be slightly different, because there's a lot of toss-up games in here. But overall, I think that, the overall record prediction is pretty sane and pretty reasonable in spite of what you might have on the message board. So I think it'd be a step forward, a pretty large step forward, especially considering the schedule. But considering the schedule that we played last year, not being this rigorous, I think 7-5 would be an outstanding job by Key and the staff. And like you said, there's a chance to build going into a 2025 season that has a much more reasonable schedule. So obviously, I'm always hoping that we can beat Georgia. Just the family members on the other side, but recognizing where they're at. That's probably a year or more away. I'd like to think that maybe next year when they lose Carson Beck, we could potentially have a shot. But I think 7-5 is pretty spot on. If we get a bowl win to get to 8-5, that would just be a real feather in Coach Key's cap and another step forward. And I think that recruiting would really start to take off.
Yeah, I mean, look, the schedule lightens up, and Dr. Bob, appreciate you calling in, man. We're gonna get lunch at some point, but the schedule lightens up, and I do agree with you there. It's going to be interesting to kind of see what happens. All right, we got another caller. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, this is Sanji. I was just in the comments calling from Atlanta, Georgia, Midtown.
I got you. Well, Sanji, your thoughts on the prediction? What you think is going to happen?
Honestly, my biggest take is on that Florida State game. You having us lost. I understand, they have a great defense, but I really do think that they have way too many question marks in the offense with DJU. And what's come out of camp so far, they've said nothing but not very negative things, him overthrowing or passing way too fast or too hard.
Yeah.
So I think they're not going to be able to get in rhythm soon enough early in the game. And so it's going to be a slugfest and those sort of kind of games that we win all the time. If we're in it on the fourth quarter, then absolutely we should win. And then on the second note, comparing, I think you had mentioned it, but comparing their team that lost 63-3 to Georgia, they got demolished. Granted, it was their second and third seeds, or a lot of those players are going to be on this team, and we only lost to them by 8 points.
Yeah.
So, keeping that in mind, I don't see how logically you can't get to the point where this game is going to be either Georgia Tech winning outright or definitely at least covering, if not losing at the very last second.
Yeah.
I'm focusing on that first game.
Yeah, and I'll just add to that. We appreciate you calling in, man, and make sure you subscribe to the channel. We'll obviously catch you. We're going to open up the phone line once again. Just to your point, though, this is where I sit with it, and I'm going to get to this caller here in just a second. This is where I sit with this.
Hello?
Yeah, well, just wait 1 second. So this is where I sit with this right here. He brought up a good point in the sense of I don't think it's going to be a blowout in Dublin. That's your worst case scenario. All right, let's get to this caller. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hello, this is Jace calling from Atlanta, Georgia.
All right. Well, Jace, let's hear what you got to say, my friend. What do you think? I go 7-5. I did have a big marquee home win over what I think is going to be a really good Miami team this year. But your thoughts on what's your final record prediction, and kind of walk us through why?
Yeah, I definitely agree with 7-5. The question is the marquee win. Georgia Tech does have a tendency to win some random game we don't expect, and I can totally see it being Miami. I'd probably guess Virginia Tech as one just because they're playing such an easy schedule and we'll be kind of thrown through the fire more so. I'm thinking we might be able to surprise them there. And obviously there's all the talk of Florida State. I don't think we should be favored in any way. I think we're losing that. But that's my one switch, is I would switch Miami and Virginia Tech probably.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's fair. That's completely fair. Like, I mean, Tech has played well up in Blacksburg. Like I said, I mean, this season's just so crazy. This season's so
Oh, yeah, it's
crazy
a
in
tough,
terms of like it's a tough schedule.
schedule.
It's a tough schedule. And I think the people who are like hell bent on this thing being a 9-3, 10-2 season, like that'd be awesome. It would tell you a lot about the growth, but how realistic is it, you know?
Oh, I totally agree. I would love for that to be the case, but like, you know, my thought is like next year, I feel like is going to be, it's a much easier schedule, a better year, but this year it's just really, really difficult.
Yeah, no, I agree. Well, hey, I appreciate you calling in. We'll catch you when we open the phone lines for the post-game show next Saturday, man. Thanks for calling in.
Thank you.
All right, we're taking one more call here. I'm calling this person back. They've called like 15 times, and then we're going to cut off the stream for the night because I've got people. I like when you get to hear this right here. Jonesy is just ripping people in the chat. I mean, just left and right.
Hello.
Hey, welcome in to the crowded booth. Swarm Talk. I know you've been calling, so would love to hear your thoughts on, what's your record prediction? You think I'm a complete moron or what?
Sure. So, not sure if when I called, I wanted to rant earlier, and maybe I wasn't able to get my words in, but basically, the focus for me was on that first loss.
Oh, you've already called in. I'm sorry, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
I'm sorry. We got to get to one more
But for
caller
some
who's
reason, I
called
just
in.
ended, so was curious about it. Your reactions.
Oh, my reactions to your picks.
Yeah. Maybe you said it, but I'm just calling I was watching the YouTube video from my phone, so
No,
I wasn't
you're
able
good.
to hear
No,
if
the
you were
reactions. I
back.
mean, like I agree with you. I think it's possible. That kind of what I said earlier in the show. Like to me, the only game that just feels unwinnable right now, and I might be wrong, and I hope I am, is the Georgia game. Like that just feels like it's going to
Right.
be really insurmountable. Outside of that, I mean, you definitely could win. So hey, I do appreciate you. We got one more caller we got to get to before we get off the air. But man, thanks so much for calling in.
Okay, yeah, and whenever you get a chance, definitely give your takes on an upset of Notre Dame. I think this is finally the year after, a decade of listening straight to Notre Dame.
Yes, no, definitely will. We'll take that right now. All right, we're going to take one more phone call here. So let's get into what we're talking about here. Notre Dame, they can win it. Yeah, I kind of want to call them. Like I suck on the phone. Like I'm terrible with this. It's because it is what it is. All right, we're gonna get one more call in. We're taking one more call. 249 people watching live. We appreciate you. This is gonna be a lot of fun. We're gonna be doing this all season long. Will, I strongly believe that we need to have just a live call-in show during the middle of the day. Like we just need to make it one day a week where we just maybe Tuesday nights. Maybe that's what Tuesday night is. Maybe Tuesday night is just a live. We want to hear from you type of show, and that would be a lot of fun. That would be a ton of fun. So we might look into that. All right, you got about 15 seconds to get your phone called in. If not, we're going to end the show. But we'll see. We'll kind of see what happens. He said he'll call after FSU. We will be live after the FSU game. Make sure you tune in. Going to be a lot of fun. We're going to give you about 10 more seconds. We need a Barry game-by-game prediction. 10-0. They're going to win the Division III national championship. That's what I'm rolling with. Yeah, that might be all. We'll see. Tuesday, I'll be visiting Brent. Okay. All right. Well, there's that. All right. Well, we'll pull down that banner and man, we'll end it tonight. But what a great show. Loaded show. You got my predictions. I say 7-5 for Georgia Tech, presented by Section 103. They make all of this happen. We appreciate them. Check out their gear. You can use code Crowded Booth for 10% off your first order. It's going to be a lot of fun. And one more look, folks, at my prediction. That's what I have rolling with 7-5. Going to be a lot of fun. Will Manis in the background. My name is Bryce Koon. We appreciate you tuning in so much. We've enjoyed it. It's been a lot of fun. This is the Crowded Booth. Look, if you're tuning in, you came across us on Twitter, give us a follow there. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. The road to 3,000 subscriptions is continuing. We are under 300 away. We would appreciate. We'd love to get there. As football comes right around the corner. Just 9 days until Georgia Tech and Florida State kick off. We have a Georgia Tech show, but man, we talk college football on Mondays and Wednesdays and all the time. Make sure you check out the videos on the rest of the channel as well, and head over to thecrowdedbooth.com to sign up for our free newsletter that you can get straight into your inbox. Will, with a great article today on in-helmet communication. It was really, really good. Check it out. did a good job, and that's not going to be just happening at Auburn. It's going to be happening everywhere here in 2024. So we'll catch you next time. Thanks so much for watching. This is Swarm Talk, brought to you by the Crowded Booth.
Pile in here and make yourself feel at home. The Crowded Booth is coming on. The Crowded Booth with Bryce Koon.